So the way this video is going to work, in about a minute and a half-ish, maybe 2 minutes, I will quickly run through the way that this competition works. You can see some elements of that on the screen above me. But after that, we will be doing the draw. And those of you who know about this competition, you know what the draw means. That is coming up fairly soon as well. And then soon after that, we will be able to get started on the competition. Those of you who are not familiar, the thing to remember really is that this competition is based on the World Cup that was held, God, what is it about? It must be about a year now, I think, roughly a year ago-ish, with a whole load of content creators from all sorts of different countries. I believe it was won by, was it Denmark? It was a Scandinavian country, I think. And the English contingent, I believe, was it Tom FM and Work the Space, I think. There were other people involved as well in behind the scenes stuff, but Tom FM and Work the Space, I believe, were the competitors from the UK. And this is basically Indonesia. You're right, Pete Oscar. You're absolutely right. It was Indonesia. I think there may have been was it a Danish team who came second, perhaps, maybe. One of the Danish team. I think it was someone who just missed out on actually going to that competition, but one of the Danish team is a regular competitor in this competition. He's not in currently, but he has competed in this before. He's very, very good. He is one of the leading players in this tournament in the past, certainly. So, as I say, it is very loosely based on the World Cup that happened whenever it was, about a year ago. We allocate points for all sorts of different competitions. You can see next to my face, that's this side, over there, next to my face, you can see a part of one of those things. They are slightly different for each league. Obviously, because there are different number of teams in the league, or there might be different numbers of cups, all sorts of different things. But essentially, you win points for all sorts of different things. You win points for your league position, obviously. You win points for how far you get in cups and the European competitions. You obviously win points for trophies. You also win points if you use your youth academy. So you get 1 point for every 10 games that a youth player who came through your academy plays. And then you also now get points for challenges, although that will not be the case for the qualifying round. After this first round, there will be challenges for every season that you play, and an opportunity to win a certain number of points if you complete those challenges. So, for example, sometimes that challenge might be to play someone out of position all season or something. It might be to use a formation that uses no defenders. We had once, which was a bit of a mad one. You get a lot of points. The more difficult the challenge is, the more points you get. So just to give you, I might as well just look for some actual examples. Give me a second. I will have some here. Cuts here, Chris, please. Right, here we go. So for one of the editions that we did, let's take edition 2 season 3, the Super League. It was based, I believe, in Austria. Can't remember which team it was, but I believe it was based in Austria. You got 5 points if you made a profit of at least £20 million in transfer fees. Now, that's actually not all that difficult to do, particularly in somewhere like the Super League, where if you've got a couple of decent players come through, you can probably sell them on to bigger clubs in Germany and elsewhere in Europe for decent fees, and then you can get decent players in from lower leagues for virtually nothing. So it's not that difficult to do, and you'd only get 5 points if you did that. You could set your sights a bit further. You got 15 points that season if you only signed Austrian players. So if all your signings that season, you could make none, of course, but if you didn't sign anyone from any other country other than Austria, then you get 15 points. And then the 30-point one that season for the Austrian Super League was to score 100 league goals. Now, that wasn't easy, obviously. That's a more difficult one, and you'd get 30 points for that. You only get one of those each season. You can only get one of those each season. So if you've done the 31, then you don't also get the 5 one. So 30 is the maximum you can get in a season for the challenges. As I say, that does not apply for this particular edition because excuse me. That does not apply for this particular edition, however, because everyone is going to be playing the same team. It's a massive thing, and the problem is, of course, that usually these are set by someone who is the administrator for that league, and they are not taking part. But unfortunately for this one, the administrators are all taking part, so it wouldn't be fair for us to set challenges which we would have to do. Most of the people who are admins in FMUL also play the games as well. Not all of them do, but most of them do, and that's absolutely fine because we have different people adminning for different people. Obviously, I won't be sending my score to myself. I will be sending it to someone else who will verify it, and then the results get fed into a central spreadsheet that all of the admins have access to, and we can all check it that way. So eventually, as I say, those challenges will become a crucial part of how you can win points. Right, that I think is the most important thing. After every edition, apart from the first one where everyone's already in there, before the first one we have one big league. Everyone is in the same league. Okay, and nobody is doing anything different to everyone else. Everyone will be sent the same starting save. They will play 4 years of that save. I will explain a little bit more about that shortly. For various reasons, mostly so that you've got youth players who you can use if you'd like to, we will sim the first season of the save. So that first season will not be played. Everyone will get the save at exactly the same date, right at the end of the first season. So you have a full pre-season to do whatever you want with the team. So that will mean that, for example, if we draw a Premier League team, you will get the save on approximately, I think it's something like this, 23rd of May 2026, just after the last day of the Premier League season. If the team that's picked is still in the Champions League or something, we'll have to sim it on a little bit more because you won't be playing the Champions League thing. But it will be as soon as their competitive games have finished for the season. You will then have the pre-season, obviously, to do as much as you need to, and then you'll need to play through the first season. You play through that first season. At the end of the first season, you then allocate the points as per the table that you can see there. Okay, as I say, that's only a little bit of it. It's a little bit more complicated than that. That will be sent out shortly. There is a video on the YouTube channel which will explain how you fill that out. It hasn't changed much. In fact, don't think it's changed at all since the last one that we did on there. So that will be exactly the same. Obviously, it's slightly different for different leagues, but essentially that is exactly the same. You'll fill that out. It will tell you how many points you have earned in total, and you then send that spreadsheet to your admin. That spreadsheet actually also includes little spaces where you are not encouraged, you have to put in a screenshot for each of those things. So for example, there is a place for a screenshot of the league table, which will of course prove how many points you get in the very top bit, the very left bit, where you have 50 points for first, 0 points for bottom, and all sorts of points in between that. So to prove where you finished in the league, you send a league screenshot. You will also need to send a screenshot of your fixtures to show where you finished where you've got to in the cups. You could also send a competition screen. I don't know if that's even there in the new FM, to be honest. So it may have to be a fixture screen, and you get the idea of all of that. Anything that you're unsure about, that's where you speak to your admin. You can also speak to me, but I'd rather first point of call should always be their admin. If you can't get an answer to them for whatever reason, feel free to DM me. I don't mind that. But if everyone DMs me, then I get snowed under and I can't possibly do everything. I also do have a job. I'm a teacher. I can't be constantly answering messages. I'm perfectly happy to do it, but if I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, it wouldn't work. So absolutely come to me if you need to, but first port of call will be your admin. So at the end of each season, you fill in that point score. You then have the option, if you like, you may then play on through to the beginning of the next season. You're not allowed, though, to start your next season until the results of the first season have been announced. They will be announced, for the moment, every Friday night at approximately 8 p.m. It's usually a bit after that because we have the deadline at 8 o'clock. We then, as admins, we have to do our little thing. We have to do a bit of work to get everything put together, and then usually somewhere between about 8:30 and 9 we start our stream, and you hear the results. Once the results have been done, you then have the freedom to carry on and do season 2, and so on and so on and so on, and it happens over 4 seasons. After the 4th season, whoever is at top of each league will get promoted, sometimes the second as well, depending on the sizes of the leagues, and whoever's bottom will get relegated. Obviously, slightly different in the top division and the bottom division, but that goes without saying. At the moment, and this is quite an important point that I would like to get everyone to bear in mind, whether you've been competition, veteran or you're brand new. At the moment, we are going to do this 1 week per season. So you'll get a whole week to do a season. That's how we are going to start this this year's FMUL. However, in the past we used to do 2 per season. So we would have a deadline on. So if we launched on the Friday night, we'd have a deadline on Sunday. So that you had essentially you had most of the weekend to do a season, and then we'd have another deadline on the Friday. So you'd have the whole week to do another season, and then it would be Friday, Sunday again for the 3rd and the 4th, and then we'd start a new one. Now, at the moment, we are going to stick with 1 per week. However, if there is a hunger for it, once people know the basics of this and they've caught on, we will then switch either in the next edition of FMUL or possibly in a later one to doing 2 every week. But that's something that is up in the air for the moment. For the moment, it's 1 week per season. So that means that the first season you will be submitting by 8 o'clock on Friday the 14th of November. I will make that very clear on everything that we put out and so on. Okay, and then the next week will be the deadline for season 2, season 3, season 4. After season 4, we start a new edition with a new team and all sorts of other things. I will go through some of the details of that nearer the time. So, the next question that we need to address is which team we get for this season. How this normally works is that the teams are drawn at random from every playable team in the game. And I mean every playable team in the game. Sorry, I'm going to correction for this one. How this normally works is that we do a random draw from every playable team in the top division of any league that is in Football Manager, with a couple of very obvious exceptions being Russia, Israel, Brazil because there's far too many games and it's just not practical, India because it's not correct, and there are a few other leagues for various reasons that we don't use. But basically, it's any team in the top division of any league with those few exceptions. In the very first one, we have a slightly different rule. Because the very first one is one for everyone, it's going to be, we wanted one that was going to give a wide range of outcomes, because otherwise everyone's going to give us, like, so if for example we had Real Madrid, which sometimes is possible, if we had Real Madrid, almost everyone would win the league most seasons, or at least they'd be very close. There's not going to be a huge amount of difference between the best people and the worst people, and it's just not going to be very interesting. So what we do is we've made the decision to stick with the top 5 leagues because that's what people know best. But what we've done is we've chosen the middle 5 or 6 teams, I think it's 5 teams, the middle 5 teams from those top 5 leagues. Okay, and then they go onto our wheel, the wheel we use for every single one, but normally that wheel has every single team. So the first thing we do is we draw the country, and then from that country we draw the team. Okay, this time though it only has those middle teams from the top 5 leagues, which I am just about to show you on my wheel. Although what I've just realised is I'm not 100% sure if the wheel will show. It will. No, yes it will. Okay, so those are all of the teams. I'm just going to put that into full screen for you. All of the teams that finished in mid-table in the top 5 leagues last season. So for example, you have in England we have Brentford, Bournemouth, Brighton, Crystal Palace and Fulham. They're all very close together geographically and in the alphabet. So I noticed it when I was collating the list of mid-table teams last year. All of the English teams are both very close together within about a 60-mile radius, and they're also very early in the alphabet for some reason. So that was a strange one, but all the other ones you can already see there. What I'm just going to quickly do is just randomize this list completely. So at the moment it seems to be done, I think, on alphabetical order, which is fine, but we want shuffled. So that's shuffled. It is indeed AC Milan. They did finish in mid-table last year in Italy. If that's incorrect, then blame one of my admins, because he's the person who actually did this list for me. It wasn't me. I believe AC Milan finished mid-table in Serie A last year. So these are the teams who will be chosen for this first edition of the qualifier. Everyone will be managing this team for 4 years, starting 1 year after the save normally starts. Okay, so I'm going to draw that now. Okay, then what will happen is I will create a save in that league. I will then simmed through the first season, so that we don't just have the same starting save that you would have if you did it. It's a little bit randomized. You might have a few weird signings and so on and so on. Okay, and then everyone will get that exact same save. You're not starting your own game for this. This is one of the things that people coming to this just need to kind of get into your heads. For none of these will you ever start your own game. The reason for that is that we want everyone to have the same challenge. And if you start a new game, there are enough RNG elements to starting a new save that it wouldn't be a fair starting position. Okay, this way everyone starts in exactly the same position, and it's a little bit more interesting for us. The reason we fast forward it, we sim it for a season, is that it just makes it a bit more interesting. Otherwise, it just becomes like, oh, we're starting at the start of the 2024, 25, 26 season, just like we did last time, and everyone's in the same place, and all sorts of things. This way, we just have a little bit of jeopardy. You might have a couple of really weird transfers. A player that you were expecting to have at Brighton, for example, has been sold. There is a good chance that when you start with Brighton, if we get Brighton, Carlos Baleba will not be there. There is a decent chance that if we get Crystal Palace, you might not have and actually there's a very, very good chance that you might not have Mark Gay. I would have thought there's if FM is correct, there's an extremely good chance he will have signed a pre-contract with somebody by the time the FM game starts. Okay, for the FMUL game. So just bear in mind that the team that you get isn't quite the same team as we know in real life. It will be very similar. It's not obviously going to be massively different, but there will be a couple of changes. Okay, another example would be Bournemouth. You know, if you get Bournemouth, obviously you're hoping, Antoine Semenyo is going to be my absolute superstar, but there is a chance he will have been sold by the time you get to manage them. Okay, so that's just a little bit of a disclaimer. If you get disappointed that you haven't got a certain player, that could happen. Of course, it might happen the opposite way. You might go to a team like Leipzig, for example, and find that they have signed. Who could they sign that would be really good for them, but perhaps would be sort of right at the edge of where they could get? Maybe someone like, it didn't happen, obviously, but someone like Nick Voltemade, gone to Newcastle, obviously. Could have gone to Leipzig. I would have thought he's the kind of player who Leipzig might have been interested in if they needed a striker. So, for example, someone like him, you might have found him at Leipzig. Okay. Now, obviously, Voltemade is unlikely to move from Newcastle to Leipzig, but that gives you an idea of the kind of thing that could happen in your first year that you will not be playing. So, my next job now is to find out which team we will be playing. So, I will roll through, take the wheel. Good luck, everyone. I hope you get the team that you are hoping for. Only one team to draw this time around. And that team is... Oh, it's not. Oh, I hate this team. I hate this team because they knocked Arsenal out of the UEFA Cup in 1990, I think, 6. And I was devastated. I was only about 9. But yeah, not happy. But the season one... the Edition 1 team is Borussia Mönchengladbach.